Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie and I'm wife to James and mom to 4 beautiful kids, ranging from 9 down to 1 with 1 on the way. My hope is to help other women experience postpartum as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 50. Hi lady, the baby's here. She came a week ago today, so that's why there was no episode last week, because I was in labor. Her name is Cecilia Chaley, and she's doing great. We both came home right about the 24-hour mark and are settling in now. I look forward to sharing her birth story with you. It was a wild one. That'll be in a future podcast episode. But for today, I wanted to introduce a guest episode. Jacqueline Ordner of The Milk Guide has been on previously to talk about setting yourself up for breastfeeding success. She's an IBCLC, an international board certified lactation consultant. And today she is returning to talk about how to afford a lactation consultant. I know it can be one of those things where you look at the price tag of lactation consultant care and may get some sticker shock. But I thought it was really important to have her on to explain the many ways, most of them that we may not have thought very much about, just because if you have 1 or maybe 2 children, perhaps you work with a lactation consultant once, maybe twice, and it just may not be something where we're thinking about or familiar with, okay, how could I make this fit into our budget? How could I realistically make this possible? It might be easy to say, well, I couldn't afford 6 sessions of that. That would be so expensive. Maybe you don't need that many. Maybe it's a one-time cost or a couple of times cost. There's so many things to consider about lactation consultancy care and paying for it that I just thought, you know what? I'm going to have her on specifically to talk about that, specifically to talk about what goes into, for instance, the price that you're paying. What is it you are getting when you pay to receive care? And I want to throw something else out there too. And it's this idea that two ideas. One, we get what we pay for, right? And by that, I mean, we get what we pay for from the person, but also we get what we pay for because when we have invested something financially, we are highly motivated, or I would say at least more motivated, to follow the directions, the instructions, the homework, the fill in the blank, the work that needs to be done on our end. I think there can be a value in making an investment or putting down money for something, especially if it stretches us a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, to encourage us, hey, this is important and I'm going to devote my time and put my time where my money was. The other thing I think is important is this idea that we prioritize the things we need to be successful in pregnancy or postpartum, in this case, obviously during postpartum. While I was pregnant this past time, it became important to me to pay for chiropractic care and pelvic floor physical therapy. I would have preferred not to incur those costs, especially the ones with pelvic floor therapy, because quite frankly, they were not inexpensive. We had not yet hit my deductible, let alone our out-of-pocket max, and so I was paying full price for those, which even with an insurance adjustment, I say that in quotation marks, even with an insurance adjustment was still very pricey. But that was important to me. Now, do I need lactation consultancy care this time? No, fortunately I do not. And I wanted to bring that idea forward too, that while there can be different costs associated with pregnancy or postpartum, generally speaking, neither you nor I will need all of the things that could cost money. So yes, I needed pelvic floor PT and I needed chiropractic care, and probably will go back to chiropractic care occasionally moving forward. And I definitely am going back at 6 weeks to pelvic floor therapy, but I don't have the costs associated with lactation consultancy. So I'm simply putting forward for your consideration this idea that, yes, there may be an expense in one area of postpartum, but perhaps not in another for you. Without further ado, I turn the mic over to Jackie.
Hi there, I'm Jackie Ordner. I am a registered nurse and international board certified lactation consultant. I'm also a mom of 4, and I'm super excited to talk to you today about ways to afford lactation care with an IBCLC. So my first tip for you is don't assume you're not covered. Chances are your insurance covers lactation care. Now, the tricky part might be finding a lactation consultant who accepts your insurance or is in network with your insurance. That's something I provide, and I do that as part of a lactation group. So we are credentialed in network with all kinds of insurances, the big names: Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, UHC, UMR, Meritain, TRICARE, Consociate. Like, there's a ton that doesn't even scratch the surface, and we can bill in network with those insurances. There are also lactation consultants who are part of some national corporations that bill out of network. So that might be like the TLN group, the Lactation Network group. That billing can be a little trickier. You might find that you don't get as big of bang for your buck going that route because they may limit your visits, where your lactation, if you saw somebody who is in network, you wouldn't have any limits. It may impact your copays, whereas if you saw somebody in network, it would not, you possibly wouldn't have any copays or anything because it's supposed to be a preventative service. So definitely, as you're calling around, ask those questions. Are you in network? Are you out of network? Is this going to cost me anything in the end? And if you're talking to the individual lactation consultant, chances are you're going to get more clear answers than if you are talking to like a representative from one of these national groups. So if you can speak to the lactation consultant in your area who, you're trying to schedule with, that's ideal. And just ask all those questions. Do you add a travel fee? Make sure that you get all the information. And those individual lactation consultants are much, historically much better at just having a clear-cut billing policy that they can share with you. Where, like I said, it can get a little bit trickier if you're asking that of like a national customer service representative or something. Also call around. So just like I said, I'm in network with all of these payers, or I can, bill in network with all these payers. Somebody else might be in network with different payers. So if you reach out to somebody and they say, oh yeah, we can see you, but it's limited visits, or you're going to have a copay or whatever, and they say, I'm out of network, I'm billing out of network, or I just can't bill that insurance, call another lactation consultant in your area or message them. And if they may have a different setup, they may be in network, it may not be the same billing situation. So don't assume that you're not covered, and then don't assume that the first person you call is the only option. There are different billing structures for different practices, and you may be covered with somebody in one situation and not covered, for another situation, but a different lactation consultant might have different options. So don't take the first no, or the first, yeah, but that's still going to cost you something. Don't take that as the only answer. Make sure you call others and get all the information. My next tip is to look out for some sneaky billing. And what I mean by that is not from your local lactation consultant. I'm not concerned with sneaky billing from Sally down the street who has her lactation practice and has been in the community for the last, 10, 15 years. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of these bigger organizations that maybe they're selling a breast pump and you get a quote unquote free class with it, or some other quote unquote free service. They're billing your insurance. And so you just need to be aware of that. So like there is a big national company that sells breast pumps that some people have been kind of upset with because they will tell you get a free class and they're billing your insurance. And then these moms find out, I only had 6 lactation visits and I took 5 of their classes. And there just wasn't clear communication that those classes are billed the same way as a lactation visit. So this mom might have taken all these classes before her baby was born. And then her baby's born and she has latch issues, or she has milk supply concerns, or just any number of challenges. And now her insurance benefit has been used up on these classes, and she's left without coverage for a lactation consultant to help her in the postpartum period. So just be sure that, anytime you are taking a class or you're, looking at these options, that how many visits are covered. For a lot of people, it's unlimited, but there are several plans out there that are limiting visits to a certain number. And make sure you know if those classes are going to take up your benefits. Now, I try really hard to know all of that information. If somebody takes a class with me, we're not using their insurance benefit if it's limited. We're not going to use it for classes. Or if we use it for a class, I make sure that they know I'm still going to support them even if they run out of visits, in the postpartum period. So we want to be wise about using those limited visits and just make sure that whoever you're taking a class with or getting a service from, okay, is that going to be applied to my insurance? And, do I have a limited number of visits? Just so you're not surprised when you need help later. My next bit of advice here is to not discount your free resources. So if you are one of those people who maybe you don't have lactation coverage as part of your insurance, remember, assume you're covered and check on that instead of just assuming you're not covered and not seeking any help. But sometimes people will seek help and realize, okay, I really genuinely don't have lactation benefits, or there's nobody in my area that's in network. There are free resources like the La Leche League. They have a lot of free resources online. They also have groups that meet in person. And so hopefully in your local area, you can find a La Leche League group and meet with them. And there are also just local community breastfeeding support groups. There are online groups. I'd say the online groups can get a little dicey. If you've ever been part of a mommy group on Facebook, you know that there's, some drama, and it's different than connecting with people in your local community. It can still be valuable. But as always, with free advice, we have to remember this is peer-to-peer support. So it's not a lactation professional necessarily doling out advice. And it's not the same as a one-on-one lactation visit where, I'm getting your whole health history. I'm understanding everything that went on with the pregnancy and the birth and, just all of it. It's different, but it can still be valuable, and more support is always better than less support. So I definitely encourage people to reach out for those free resources, and you never know what kind of connections you can make that will lead to more support, or just, learning about a lactation consultant maybe you didn't know existed in your area, and maybe they can see you. The other thing is call the lactation consultant in your area and talk to them about, hey, I'm not covered and this is a financial burden. Do you offer any discounts? Do you do any pro bono visits? I do offer discounts. I do a certain number of pro bono visits. I know other LCs in my area do pro bono visits, a certain number every week or every month. So our desire is for you to have lactation care. And most of us who went into this field, we care a lot more about supporting you than getting rich. That's for sure. We don't go into this to get rich. So most of us are happy to heavily discount things or provide pro bono visits, or, we can be creative about ways to get people support. So don't just, even if you're one of those few people that aren't covered, just don't say, oh, I guess I just don't get support. Also, hospitals sometimes have lactation consultants that see patients for free, or they have outpatient clinics if you delivered there. And midwives in the area, they can connect you with different supports too. So definitely check with anybody involved in birth. Often will have those connections for lactation support. I wanted to also mention Medicaid. So in Illinois, we just had a bill recently passed where lactation consultants can credential to get in network and be reimbursed by Illinois state insurance, Medicaid, for their time with seeing lactation patients. And so that's something, those were pro bono visits that I would do. And now I'm working to get in network, and, it's not the same reimbursement as maybe commercial insurance, but maybe it'll cover my gas to go see somebody, and that will open up more opportunities to see patients who don't have commercial insurance, or they don't have coverage in that way. And so don't assume that if you're on state insurance that you don't have coverage, because a lot of states are prioritizing that. They recognize how beneficial breast milk is for babies and for moms, the act of breastfeeding and the protections it provides your body. So they are prioritizing that and working with lactation consultants to get coverage for state insurance. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. Real quick, I wanted to just kind of run down why a lactation visit costs what it does, because sometimes people will say, well, why does it cost so much, when they hear like what the cash price is. And in my area, most LCs are charging around $200 for a visit. And there are other larger metropolitan areas where it's not unheard of for it to be $400 or $500 for a home visit. And I just wanted to break that down a little bit. In our area, that $200, that in my practice, first of all, I definitely work with people who are paying cash. Like I said, we're trying to discount that, but that's sort of like the baseline that most people are familiar with in the area, that's about what it costs. That is a 90-minute visit in most cases. For my practice, that's what it is, a 90-minute visit where I'm watching you nurse your baby, or I'm watching you pump, or we're doing both. We're flange sizing. We are talking about, all the things that are going on with feeding. I'm doing a breast exam. I'm doing an oral exam on your baby and a physical exam on your baby. We're doing it all. And I want you to have plenty of time to tell me all the things. And it can take, if your baby's struggling to eat, it may take them 45 minutes to do a full nursing session. And we want to weigh the baby before, we want to weigh the baby after they've nursed, and we can get kind of a picture of what they've transferred in that moment. That takes time. So I block 90 minutes, maybe a follow-up's only 60 minutes, maybe. But a lot of times it's still that 90 minutes. And so those initial visits are usually around $200. A lot of people discount the follow-up visits as well. And then after that 90 minutes, there's also the time spent replenishing supplies or cleaning the tools that you used. If you have a clinic space, cleaning that. There is some time spent charting. Charting can take up a lot of time. We have requirements. We have to include appropriate information in the chart in order for insurance to reimburse for a visit. And we have to, if it's a cash pay visit, we still have those standards. Like it's just like seeing your doctor or being in the hospital. Like there is documentation that's required for the visit to meet these legal requirements. So that takes time. And then coordinating care. I may be making calls to a chiropractor, a physical therapist, the pediatrician, pediatric dentist. I may have to make 5 or 6 phone calls to coordinate care after one visit. So that takes some time. And then drive time. In my area, it is nothing to drive half an hour each direction to see somebody. A lot of times it's more like an hour each direction to see somebody. And so that is also part of the cost, the fuel, the time, the wear and tear on the vehicle. So it can end up being, a 1.5 hour visit can end up being more like 3.5, 4 or more hours of the lactation consultant's time. And just like you're paying for a plumber or an electrician to come to your home, you're paying for their knowledge and skill. The same thing with a lactation consultant. If you have somebody who is highly skilled, who's been in practice a long time, their fees might be a little higher than somebody who's just getting started. Their experience and their skill level is probably not going to be the same as somebody who's been in practice a long time. So there may be a difference in their fees. My goal as a lactation consultant is for people to never pay anything out of pocket for my services. And that is what I strive for. So, just because there's an advertised cash price, that's not usually what we're going with. And a lot of lactation consultants feel the same. They're just trying to provide care. We're trying to work with insurance and then trying to work with people if their insurance benefit runs out or if they just don't have coverage. So definitely the moral of the story here is talk to your local LC. I'm betting they are willing to work with you to help you get care in some way, form, or fashion. And the desire is for you and your baby, your family, to be supported. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned some things. And hopefully if you were on the fence about seeking lactation care because you're like, oh, that's not going to, that's going to cost me hundreds of dollars. I don't have coverage. Hopefully I gave you some hope that that's probably not the case. And I'm definitely available for questions if people are seeking some more information about this, or, maybe you're not in my area, but you need some help connecting with a lactation consultant. I've been doing this a long time, so I know a lot of people who are good LCs and would be happy to connect you with them also if you want to reach out to me. And I hope that you find wonderful care and support. And like I said, I hope it doesn't cost you a dime out of pocket.